So I think up in the top here, I say it's showing live on Facebook and it is recording. Does everyone seeing that? Okay. All right, so welcome. We still have a few community members joining us. Right now we have about 172 attendees. Thank you for either calling in or joining us. And I'm hoping that we're also streaming onto Facebook, Facebook Live. So I'm Leslie Arnold. I'm the superintendent of the Weld RE-5J school district. And I'd like to just take a few seconds to kind of go around to share who our panelists are tonight and who will be speaking to you tonight in this 2-hour community meeting that we have about phase 3 instruction. So I'm just going to go around in my Zoom order. So to my left, and I don't know if it's to yours or not, is Brian Littlefield. He is our principal for Roosevelt High School. The other side is Casey Ross. He is our principal for Letford Elementary School. And then I have Kara Anderson. She's the director of human resources. And then I have Tammy Kramer, who is the principal of Pioneer Ridge Elementary. Kim Seafried, who is the new principal for Milliken Elementary School. And Aspen Sanders, who is the new principal for Milliken Middle School. Shannon Guyana, who is our director of early childhood, pre-K through 3rd grade. Janelle Perez is our director of special education. I have Bryson Vetter, who's our director of IT, which we find we need him more often than not. We have Dr. Mona Berry, who's our chief academic officer. And for parts of our presentation tonight, we have Clint Dudley, who's from TRPR, that will be speaking about some of the options that we have for parents as we start getting into the phase 3 of in-person instruction. So I do have a presentation I'm going to share with everybody, but give me just 1 second here. And some of this presentation is a couple of slides that you may have seen back on Wednesday night when we had our board meeting. But this gives just a little bit more detail as we are starting to kind of work through some of the details ourselves and getting some answers ourselves as we're figuring this out. So right now, if you did not tune into the board meeting last Wednesday, we went from a phase 4 flexible schedule, mostly in person, to a phase 3, an in-person with an online component. And so with the phase 3, and I will explain kind of our rationale in just a few minutes, it's really about how do we look at creating more safe environments for students and making sure that people are able to still educate their children, but also looking at how do we present the education in the best way possible and still keep our social distancing, et cetera. So as we kind of go through our hybrid learning, these are some of the things that we started looking at as we were deciding on what part of school that we can open and what phase that we can open in. So the first thing, and these are probably very familiar to all of you, is the 6-foot social distancing. This was something that we really had to be thinking about as far as with some of our older schools, especially with their smaller classrooms. How can we keep at least 6 feet apart within the classroom, in the hallways, in the cafeteria, et cetera, in order to keep that appropriate social distance? We also, the guidelines are about covering your cough and sneeze with tissues, etc. But we also, with that, we're looking at doing full mask wearing from kindergarten to 12th grade. And we can talk about a little bit about that. I think we have a few questions about masks in our community questions, but we can talk about that in just a second. We're going to be teaching our kids to not touch their eyes, nose, and mouth. And I notice as I keep doing Zoom meetings, I see myself doing that a lot myself. So this is something that is going to be hard, I think, for a lot of us. Cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched objects and surfaces. I worked with our director of facilities for the entire summer, figuring out what the cleaning schedules would look like, how we can keep our schools clean, what is it that we can be doing to, as students are moving in and out of the classrooms, how do we keep the hard surfaces especially clean and safe for students? And then staying home when you're sick, this is going to be something where you, the parents, are really going to have to look at monitoring your child every day. We're going to be sending out a checklist this week where we would ask that you would take your child's temperature and ask a few questions every morning of your child to see if they are feeling okay, good enough to come to school anyway. And the temperature that we're looking at right now is 100.4. So if your child has a fever of 100.4 or higher, we are asking that they would stay home. If they come to us to school and we are doing temperature checks as we are entering school, and if they have a temperature over 100.4, we would bring them into a quarantined room, a special room with our nurse, and we would take their temperature again just to make sure that it's not something that they got overheated or if there's anything else going on. If that temperature remains at 100.4, we would then be calling parents and be asking parents to come pick up their child from school. And lastly, one of the other guidelines to help prevent the spread of COVID is hand washing, and it's doing it often. So if you can think of having 24, 25, 26 kindergartners in the classroom and you were asking them to wash their hands with soap and water for 20 seconds each time, it would take quite a long time to get those kids through the hand washing station. So we also, hand washing is obviously something that we're going to be teaching our children and doing that when we come back from recess, doing this before lunch, etc. But the thing is that with fewer students in the classroom, it's going to help us get through kind of hand washing protocols a little bit quicker. One thing about social distancing, and this was something that I tried to explain at the board meeting on Wednesday night, was about cohorting. And this is a screenshot from the Colorado Department of Education when they talked to all of the superintendents about cohorting students and what does that look like. And so this is like an ideal situation. You have 20 students in a class, you can keep them kind of separated from everybody else. One student or one staff member gets a positive COVID test or a probable COVID symptoms, that you would only be quarantining that one cohort. So when I worked with our principals as they returned last week, we started thinking about how can we do cohorting. In elementary, it works a little bit better, but once you start getting into middle school and high school, this cohorting, the cohorts start getting larger and larger and larger. And with that, because those students have a lot of different options that they can be taking for classes, etc. They have a lot of different teachers that they're interacting with. And so if we're following the guidelines, what it's really talking about, especially with our older students, middle school and high school students, is to reduce their exposure to as many cohorts as possible and teachers as possible. So there will be, even if there's in-person learning, there may still be some synchronous learning happening as well. And that would mean that maybe the art teacher is teaching from her classroom, but projecting it into the classroom itself. Those details are going to be coming out hopefully this week and the beginning of the following week. But when we started looking at cohorting, we really started thinking this is getting a little bit harder to do, especially in the middle school and high school. And our older classrooms in Milliken Elementary School and Letford Elementary School were just not capable of having a 6-foot distance with 24 desks within those classrooms. So that is why the decision was, I recommended to the school board on Wednesday night that we go into an in-person with an online component to learning. And so we started thinking about still giving those kids the experiences that they need with their teachers and their other friends, etc., to give a full online experience for parents who still are requesting that. So that option is still available. Also to cohort our students more effectively and more efficiently within the buildings themselves, and to make sure that all of our employees can continue to be employed with us as we are going into this model. It has been said, I believe on the July 15th piece and last Wednesday, that if we go to an all online model, that is when we may not need our transportation at that time, food service, etc. So in order to keep our staff employed, this was a good solution to kind of keep everybody not being furloughed and to keep them employed as well within our school district. So what does it look like in phase 3 if they do a fully online model? So attendance and grading, it's going to be very different. Attendance and grading this fall is going to be, they will be held accountable just as much as an in-person student doing in-person instruction. Many of the times, and what you're going to hear from Dr. Littlefield and our other principals, many of the times the information and the lessons that they are going to see online are the actual teachers teaching that in the classroom themselves. So it's like an experience that if they were there, they're still getting the same material, the same expectations, etc. It's just that there is a little bit more flexibility that's provided with this, so that since we will be recording our teachers' lessons as they're teaching those lessons in person, that students who are online have the opportunity to watch those at different times as well. And we will be giving supports to online teachers that will support our students as they're working through their lessons, etc., and keeping them on track as well. Again, more information. Our teachers just came back today. They're going to be starting to talk about that tomorrow and what does it look like. And more information is going to be given to you as parents and the community as we kind of move through this process and work with our teachers to decide what this looks like. So I'm going to ask Shannon Gaona to come on to just give us a little bit of an update of what pre-K will look like this year.
Sure, thank you. So preschool is going to look very similar this year. We are offering in-person and virtual learning. We do cap our classrooms at 16 every year. With that online component, we're going to actually be able to have less group sizes. So we're going to try to keep it at 10, possibly 12, so that we can actually have smaller cohorts. It's going to look very similar as it typically does from year to year. Things that might look a little bit different are that we'll just have one group on the playground at a time, cleaning in between so that we can be sanitary. Preschool's very sanitary and we always disinfect. So something that we might teach the older children is that when you're standing in line, we might get some foam pumps so that you can put soap in all of the kids' hands while they're standing in line, and they can wash their hands for 20 seconds while in line, and you're not wasting time. We've learned to be very efficient with hand washing. Cohorts, like I said, will be the same. There will be no integration with other classes. We're going to look at when we do some of the centers, when we play in those, we're only going to do 3 or 4 kiddos at a time, and they'll probably just play in the same 2 centers a day, and we won't have free choice. So that's going to limit some of that disinfecting of toys. All of our teachers will wear masks. We're looking at the face shields so that we can still have those facial expressions that are so important in preschool. And we can talk a little bit more of masks, but we're not requiring 3-year-olds to wear masks, and we're encouraging 4- and 5-year-olds to wear masks in preschool, but not required. We'll do some different things for sign in and sign out for parents to make it a little bit safer, but we will talk about that with individual families. And then same with temperature checks, everything will be the same as elementary school. And then entering the school buildings, we'll do it from outside, just like most of the other elementary schools. Yeah, and surfaces, we are removing anything fabric out of our classroom. And unfortunately, that's going to look like our dramatic play areas are going to change a little bit, but we're just going to get more creative so we have items that are easily disinfected.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Yes, so that would be for pre-K. As we're moving on with what this looks like. Let me see if I can get back to this. There we go. We talked about, as this was also presented on Wednesday night, but we talked about what does it look like for a confirmed outbreak? If 5 people in a family have a confirmed case of COVID, does that count as 5 instances? From the things that I am reading, And what I'm trying to decipher, and I know we're all trying to kind of figure this out as we go, but the things from the Colorado Department of the Colorado Public Health Department is what they're saying is that it's for non-household outbreaks. So when we're talking about outbreaks and those definitions, it's not just about how many people in the household might have tested positive or have probable symptoms for COVID, but it's about the 5 independent cases outside of that. So there's some great information that was shared on Wednesday from the Colorado Public Health Department. There was also some information that might help as we kind of look through. Those will be what we follow as if we start looking at if we need to quarantine a cohort or if we need to quarantine an entire school, etc. So what does online learning look like? Again, it's still attendance is expected, etc. There is some flexibility, but the one thing that I really want to share that we made a decision on just today that was not something that we talked about on Wednesday night was that parents who want to also homeschool their children, that they may want to have a type of curriculum that they would like to use, we are going to encourage them to also enroll in our online program so that our students can still remain connected with the teacher and remain connected with their friends and to have those social interactions, etc. And we think that's going to be really important because our hope is that come October, come whatever, that we are able to come back full time, and we would like those children to all come back full time with us as well. So I'm going to turn this over now to Tammy Kramer, who is going to talk about the different phases and what it looks like and have a little bit more. So Tammy, I've not been able to look at the questions that are coming in. If you see any questions that might relate to elementary, could you possibly ask those as well? Or
Sure.
answer those as well, sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so for elementary, as many of you already know, we're looking at the in-person component, in-person learning with the online component. We are having the sessions be AM and PM. Lots of discussion about whether it should have been AM and PM or the 2-day and 3 days off. And for elementary, this just seemed to be a better option. As you know, we've been talking about making sure that we place the siblings in the same session. All of us have had parents contacting us asking for a specific session, AM or PM, because of various family situations. And we've been telling everyone we're going to put you on the list that you're requesting, and we will do our very best to put you in the session that you are that's going to work best for your family. We are trying to make sure that we balance out the classes in order, the morning session and afternoon session, to be sure that we can follow the socially distanced guidelines with the 6 feet in between. I know there's a few questions that have been coming in about masks, and we are planning on having our kids wear masks, and we are also planning to build in mask breaks for everyone, staff and students included. We're planning to use our outdoor learning space as much as possible in order to take care of that a little bit too. It's a little safer for all of us to, when we're outside, to be able to spread out and not have to wear masks quite as much. We're working out details with the AM and PM sessions for lunches, for breakfast. Our teachers came back today, and tomorrow we will be meeting a lot to discuss many details about how this is going to work. Let's see if there's any questions here that I can help with. There's one person who's talking about the difficulty of kids keeping 6
6 feet of distance between them and others. One thing that I've noticed, we've had the YMCA kids at our school this summer, and it was great for me to see because I was able to watch what they did with wearing masks, and also when they were lining up to go out to play on the playground or something like that. And it worked very well. They actually wore the masks, and I watched them when they had their breaks, watched them sticking out their arms as far as they could to make sure that they were far enough away from the people around them. So I think as parents, we're very concerned about things like that, but kids are better at it than we think they might be. There's a question about requiring masks outside. I think that it is a little easier to not wear masks outside. So we're encouraging our our teachers to use the outside space as much as possible. There's a question about if your child loses their mask. We will have backup masks. We won't have a lot of them, but we will have some. We also would encourage you to send an extra mask in their backpacks, kind of like we ask for the little ones to have extra change of clothes just in case. Let's see.
Can I jump in on one, Tammy?
Absolutely, please do.
And I echo all that Mrs. Kramer has said. LES will follow those same expectations and guidelines as well. I do see a question here about the internet being terrible in Johnstown. I think we all understand that dilemma. And the 4 kids being able to attend online at the same time, how that be handled. I think our focus for the online component for elementary is to have it set up in a way where it can be really accessed at any time of the day. So if you want maybe a couple of your kiddos in the AM and a couple of your kiddos in the afternoon, that would totally be okay, and they could access that learning even though it's not all at the same time.
And then I was thinking about the question around the lunchtime. So right now what we've talked about is that when students leave the AM session, they'll be grabbing a lunch to go to take that home with them. And then the kids that are coming in for the PM session will get a lunch and take that to the classroom. So that's how we've thought about it that for right now.
Yeah. So there's some questions about discipline around mask wearing and staying, apart from each other and that sort of thing. Our goal is to just help the kids understand the importance of wearing masks and staying apart from one another. I don't see in the elementary schools a lot of discipline per se, but just a lot of educating and helping them understand the importance. All right, Miss Arnold, is there more that you would like us to talk about regarding elementary?
Well, thanks. Did we go through about the online registration going through August 11th, this slide?
Nope. Online registration is happening. Sorry, I'm trying to read the questions and talk about these bullets at the same time. Okay, so yes, online registration goes through tomorrow. Is it at a certain time, Miss Arnold?
4 p.m.
Till 4, okay. And so at that time, we will have a great idea of how many kids we have that will be in person and how many kids that will be online. And then we'll be able to give those assignments. I see that there's a few people that are asking when we will give those assignments, and our plan was to get this online registration process completed, and then we would be able to place our kids, and you'll know for certain who teachers will be and all of those details that we as parents are interested in knowing. And obviously those class assignments may change based on the staff members that are needing to teach online, as well as the number of students that are enrolling in the online option. Let's see.
So I think our next part, Mrs. Kramer, is the part that I'm going to ask Clint Dudley to also come in on. But we briefly mentioned this on Wednesday night about how we really want to also support our essential workers, parents that work, both parents that are working, single parents that are also working. We're not trying to make this so impossible for you that you have to quit your job, etc. So we really want you to get in contact with us. You're going to get a form tomorrow that if you need an additional services for your elementary student, remember, we're just talking about elementary right now. We'll talk about middle school and high school in just a second. But for elementary, if they need a full day care every day of the week, we have some options. We started when I was talking with the elementary principals, we really started thinking that there might be about 100 students that we can bring in the morning and 100 in the afternoon that can be supervised by a staff member, where they would be doing asynchronous or synchronous learning online. They would have their iPad, they would have headphones, etc. They would be able to social distance, they would have Wi-Fi in our schools, and that they would be able to then connect with their online teacher during that time that they are not with their in-person. So we are offering that, and that cost is free. We just need to know who the people are that are working, single parents, essential workers in our community, etc. If you do have the option to keep your kids at home, we are asking that they do come home with you in the afternoon or stay home in the morning if possible, but you also have some other options as well. We're looking at partnering with the YMCA as well as TRPR, and I'll let Clint talk in just a second. But the YMCA, they can take an additional 150 students in the morning and an additional 150 students in the afternoon for full-time supervised in-person and online instruction. We would still provide your child lunch. You would not need to transport them back and forth to the YMCA. We would be providing that transportation for you. So they would finish, if they came to the elementary schools in the morning, they would pick up their lunch, and then they would move on to the YMCA for their afternoon. Those times, and we'll get more information out tomorrow, but as I understand it, are from 7 to noon if they're in the PM session. So you can drop off as early as 7 a.m. and then noon to 5 p.m. So you can pick up at the YMCA at 5 p.m. if needed. The cost for YMCA, and I'm still working with the YMCA as well about what the cost would be for if you had a membership. So I don't know if they figured that out yet, but the cost that I received from them so far is $125 a week for this, or if you're just gonna need them one day here and there, that would be $30 a day. If you fill out the free and reduced lunch forms for your children and you qualify, it then goes down to $75 a week, and for one day, only $20. So I'm going to ask Clint Dudley to come in and talk a little bit about what we're planning with TRPR as well. Clint, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So this is Clint Dudley with Thompson Rivers Parks and Recreation District. And a lot of what Leslie just mentioned about the Y, it's very similar to the options that we are offering. I do just want to take a minute to reiterate the district support for the decision-making process for the school district. We know how tough that was, but we do recognize that it's tough for the parents. It really is, especially for the elementary school aged kids. So we're in the very early process of planning some of these daytime half-day programs for the elementary age kids when they're not in school. So the basic idea, again, as Leslie said, is that when kids are not in school, so AM kids can stay in Milliken and then be transported to their school in the afternoon, and then the afternoon kids would be transported to Milliken. And then when they're at our facility, they would be in a classroom setting. They would have their district provided devices. We do have internet that is sufficient to provide for all of these kids. And then they would have kind of like a replication of that classroom service. Currently, we just started working on this project, but we're only able to provide around classroom space for 100 kids in the morning and 100 kids in the afternoon. But we are looking at adding a couple other facilities that are closer to elementary schools in the district. And again, as Leslie said, we'll have transportation to and from our facilities to the school, so those kids will be there on time. So if a parent drops their kid off at one of our facilities in the morning, they don't have to worry about coming and picking them up and taking them to their school at whatever time they need to be. The fee for that is $50 a week, and we are charging per week. And we kind of do need a per week commitment from that. And again, we're looking at about 100 kids in the morning and 100 kids in the afternoon for right now. But we are looking to expand those services. We have some meetings later this week with some partners in the community, and we're pretty excited about that potential. One other thing, I don't want to clog up all of your guys' chat right here. I can see the questions, but I do just want to send my email out. It is cdudley@trpr.org. I'll be on that tonight and all day tomorrow. So if you guys have questions about that, or even more important, if you have suggestions, again, and we're just kind of wrapping our head around that, but just ideas of how that, could be more convenient for parents, please let us know. Myself, all of our staff and our board have a huge heart for the community, and anything that we can do to help, we absolutely want to do it. So Leslie, that was short, but does that cover it?
That's great, Clint.
Okay.
And I then did not know we were charging, and I apologize because on my slides I wrote that it's free. So I will.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I will update that and make sure that we get the right costs out to all the families tomorrow.
Okay.
And if you could also, Clint, be thinking about for free and reduced lunch families, if we could have a reduced fee for that, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so we'll get that information out soon, tomorrow morning or tomorrow to everybody in our community. So I'm going to now pass this over to Aspen Sanders, who's going to talk a little bit about not just these slides, but some of the things that are happening at the middle school and when communication will take place for the middle school parents, etc.
Thanks, Leslie. So for the middle school, we're looking at the in-person with the option with the online component to complement it. So our students, and this has changed slightly since the board meeting last week, our students will come to school in person 2 days a week, either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Friday will be a totally virtual day for all of those students. For families that have students at the middle school and the high school, if you have contacted either Dr. Littlefield or myself, we're doing everything we can to try and accommodate families that either want alternate days for childcare to help out with their elementary school age children, or same days if that's the request for transportation, because we know that's an issue. So reach out to Dr. Littlefield and myself, and we'll help coordinate that for you. We changed those days, just a little bit of rationale. We changed those days after the board meeting last Wednesday because parents reached out and were concerned about the 5-day gap for students that had were done with school on Tuesday if we stayed with Monday, Tuesday. So we wanted to eliminate that to make sure there was a little bit more continuity with students being in school and then being away from school. Students at the middle school will be cohorted in order to limit exposure to other students. And at the middle school, the cohorts range from, right now, because we're going to be so small, they'll have about 12 or 13 kids with this model. When we come back in phase 4, and that's a win because that'll happen someday, that we'll have the cohorts won't be any larger than 25 or 26. And when I say that they're cohorted, to explain what that looks like is that the students will start the day with that group of kids. They will end the day with that group of kids. They'll have lunch with them. They'll be 3 feet apart. We have set out spot. We have our cafeteria. We have our commons. We've designated some outside areas. They'll be in a classroom. Their teachers will rotate in and out of the classroom. We decided it was safer for our students here for teachers to rotate in and out of the classroom. But obviously, middle school is going to stay in the same room all day. It will be a bit crazy for everyone involved, for those of you that have middle schoolers. So we are talking with our staff this week and next week about mass breaks during classes. We are actually going to be holding some classes outside. So we'll do a rotation so kids get fresh air and get to be outside. We'll be talking about brain breaks, all of those things. In order for kids to get into the building safely, later this week, early next week, we'll be sending out a map with designated exits and traffic patterns for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade parents in designating which exits they'll be able to drop their kiddos at to be able to come in the building. I think the only other thing that we kind of talked about is the check-in and check-out process. Ms. Kramer mentioned that a little bit. In order to keep the school a safe environment, we'll be doing check-in and check-out outside of the school building, and that will actually go for all of our buildings. If you have appointments with an administrator or a staff member, obviously you'll come inside, but we're really trying to limit outside visitors coming in the building when we have our students here. And I think that's it for the middle school. I'm trying to think of other questions that parents have asked me. The online component, I've had some parents ask about, what does the online component look like for school? And then what does it look like when my student's not in school? So we'll talk about that part first. So there's 2 options, just like Ms. Arnold mentioned, that we're going to work through, which can be synchronous or asynchronous. So the teachers will have the recording on in their classroom. If it works for your kiddo to get on during their 2nd period class, they can get on and join their classmates in the class discussion. If that doesn't work, because you've got to be there sitting next to them to help them with that, then you can certainly watch the video recording. The idea is that whether they're in school or at home, they're continuously learning, and that there's that continuity of learning. For our online program, we have 5 amazing teachers that are going to be doing our online program, and we have a wide variety of electives. Today they were coming up with their list of electives. I want to be a middle schooler in the online program because some of them sound downright fun, which was not. Online is normally never fun, but they have created some fun electives for the kiddos. So for the middle school, we will have some of that communication out later this week as far as what cohorts are. We'll talk about 6th grade orientation. There's been a lot of questions around that. We will have 6th grade orientation. That is going to be on August 21st. We'll be sending out communication as far as which cohorts will come in the morning, which cohorts will come in the afternoon. But we feel it's important to make sure that the kiddos get here. Starting middle school is a little bit anxiety filling and scary as it is in a normal time. So we want to make sure that we get them here before then. We will have our open house night. That's the last thing that I have to talk about, and then I'll start diving into questions. Our open house night is going to be virtual, and that is going to be on August 19th from 5 to 7. You'll get to meet your students' teachers, and when I say it's virtual, if your student is doing the in-person with the online component or solely online, you'll get to meet your kiddos' teachers, and we'll have more information out about that. Okay, some of the questions here. Good evening, what's the split for the alphabet for Monday, Wednesday versus Tuesday, Thursday? The high school, from my understanding, is doing alphabet. The middle school, because we felt it was important to honor the middle school's electives, we've actually cohorted the kids by the electives. And so that will be kind of how that splits. So the middle school is not necessarily doing alpha, but like I mentioned before, if parents contact us and they need us to align with the high school in that regard, please let us know. We will do everything we can to do that because we know transportation is an issue. Let's see, what's some of these other questions on here? How do you register your kids? So there's been 2 questions about registration. If you need to register your kids for the district because you are new to our district, there is a link on our district website. If you are already a student in the district or your kiddos attend our district, you can go on there and request to be in the online program. So there's that one. Will the bus schedule be both elementary and middle school students? I think Ms. Arnold mentioned that that's going to be coming out in the next week. How do elective classes work in middle school and high school? In middle school, we grouped them together as best as we could. So we took their 6 requests and tried to make sure that they got at least half of them, and everybody gets PE, and who doesn't love PE, quite honestly. So we got that for a lot of the kiddos. How long do we have to decide online? I believe Ms. Arnold mentioned 4 p.m. tomorrow to get that filled out. And that really is truly primarily because we're adjusting staffing in our building and online to make sure we can meet everyone's needs. And so we just have to have a little bit of lead time on that. But if you are struggling with the decision, not sure what to do, I would encourage you as well as I know everyone on the team here that's on this call would encourage you to reach out to us individually if there's questions. Yes, we are busy, but we're in the business of helping parents and families. And so please reach out to us so we can help answer any of those questions, because we know they're tough decisions to make, and we empathize with the fact that you have to make them. We're all making tough decisions right now. Do you want me to keep going, Miss Arnold? Or do you want to turn it over to the high school?
No, we'll get caught up on the questions as we get towards the end, but you did a great job. Thank you for getting some of those questions in there as well. And just to make sure everybody knows that we are recording this, and if it's not showing up on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, we will be posting it later. So we'll make sure we get that out. So the options for full week care is a little bit different than for elementary school. Again, as Aspen Sanders had just mentioned, we will have some opportunities, some flexibility to bring kids in all week for essential workers, parents who work, both parents who work, single parents, etc., that are working, that need that kind of support and cannot be with their child at home. So we do need to kind of know who those people are, and we'll be getting out some information on that tomorrow. The YMCA, again, they can take 300 students a day. I don't know what the cost is going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be similar as it is to elementary, but I need to confirm with the YMCA as well. And if you do fill out the free and reduced lunch forms, if somebody lost a job at your house, or your income has been cut back a little bit or something, if you could fill out this free and reduced lunch form, it would not just help your child to get breakfast and lunch, but also to get a little bit reduced costs in some care at the YMCA, etc. And then finally, it's very similar with TRPR, is what Clint Dudley had said. We don't know about the lunch on this one. This is very different for high school and middle school. When students are not in the building at all, like on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Friday or whatever it is, that we have to get approval from the USDA, the federal government, in order to provide them lunch if they are not in the building at that time. With elementary, they are there every day, either in the morning or in the afternoon. So we're able to do full lunch service for elementary school children. So we need to make sure that we've got to get the lunches the days that they are off, and if they are taking part in the YMCA or TRPR, that we are able to provide them lunch. We will let you know if they're not, and they just might have to bring their lunch during that time. So now I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Littlefield, and he's going to talk a few minutes about the high school phase. Dr. Littlefield?
Well, thank you, Ms. Arnold. Yeah, it's exciting to have the teachers back on campus, some of them today. Have a lot of them coming back on the campus tomorrow, so that way we can meet and really just go through some of the details and specifics of getting ready for phase 3 at Roosevelt High School. And so we've had our admin team working on various scenarios. We've been working with Ms. Sanders in the middle school on a lot of different scenarios, and how can we coordinate, how can we best fit the needs of our students and our families and our faculty and staff. One of the high school to help kind of meet some of these guidelines and address some of these procedures and recommendations. And so we looked at a modified block schedule for phase 3. The reason why we looked at the modified block schedule was it made it easier for us to transition from phases, from phase 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, with the least amount of impact and disruption on the students, the faculty, staff, and their schedules. Kind of the way we have our block schedule organized right now is we have A through G students, 9th grade through 11th grade, attending Monday through Tuesday in person. H through Z will be attending Mondays and Tuesdays online. We will also have the class of 2020 seniors attending Mondays and Tuesdays. And so I have a very persuasive student body senior class president that helped me make sure that was a priority for this coming school year at Roosevelt. And so we're looking at Wednesdays and Thursdays. The other half, the H through Z, 9th grade through 11th grade, will be attending in-person classes. And they will attend their first 4 block classes on Wednesday and their second 4 block classes on Thursday, the same way with the first group on Mondays and Tuesdays. Friday is designated as an all-day, all online learning day for all of our students. They will meet all 8 of their block courses for 45 minutes online. And so that way they have the opportunity, teachers have time to meet with them, they have time to meet with their group. So they'll be attending in person 2 days a week and online 3 days a week. Students, the reason why we looked at the block schedule, well, number one, it limits transition periods. We went from transitioning 7 class periods a day to only 3 class periods a day. Exposures to student staffs, but also we were able to take the teachers' contracted number of students, 168 students, and this time we were able to look at, instead of spreading over 6 classes, spreading them over 7 classes. So that reduced the class sizes for us too, to help us spread them out and socially distance the students. We're also looking at staggered start times and staggered passing periods with longer passing periods, so that we don't have as many students in the hallway at the same time. We also are going to do one-way hallways, and we're going to do hallway dividers to keep them, social distance and spread out as much as we can at the high school level. We are going to be scanning temperatures upon entering and exiting Roosevelt High School. We have a number of thermoscan infrared thermometers that we're going to be scanning all the temperatures as they come in the building, so to make sure they're safe. We'll scan them twice if we need to scan them twice, but we'll work with them. And we do have one that's running over 100.4 temperature that day. We'll make sure we contact parents, and let's just keep them home, keep them safe, and they get healthy, then we'll look at bringing them back. And that's helped us. We've done athletic practices and workouts through the summer that were voluntary, and we kind of created the bubble by screening all these athletes and coaches every day when they came in. And we had a lot of success, and was able to prevent a lot of spreading of any illnesses, much less COVID-19 virus positives. And so we're going to try to continue that for the fall semester at Roosevelt High School. And we'll designate each door per grade level. And so the front doors will be the 9th grade level. Of course, the seniors will be coming through the gym and the senior parking lot. And we'll have sophomores and juniors coming through the back parking lot by the Performing Arts Center and Auditorium. And so we've kind of got it divvied up so that way they come in at different times and through different areas and doors. We will be requiring masks. Opportunities, for students and staff, they'll get breaks to go outside. We're going to open up our outdoor space. We're getting more outdoor furniture, benches. We're getting picnic tables. And so we're going to be spreading them out for lunches all over the building. So there'll be some classes eating lunch in the gym, some classes spread out outside eating lunch, some classes in the commons area eating lunch. And so we will have off-campus lunch for grades 10, 11, and 12, so those students still have the opportunity. Sodexo will be bagging our lunches, so it'll be like a to-go line. You grab your lunch to go, and then go find a good spot to spread out and enjoy your lunch and social distance. We will be wearing our Roosevelt masks, and so we're going to have those on, and so we'll be asking students to wear those and keep their masks on. I have my mask ready to go. I have to have a water bottle handy so I can have the mask break every once in a while. But we're going to work with our students, and we're going to work with our faculty and staff to do the best job to get them back. We miss them at Roosevelt High School. I thank Miss Sanders in the middle school and her staff are working with us, and we're going to continue to work with your families. And if we've got to adjust a little bit and be flexible, that's what we're going to do. But we're going to keep smiling, and we're going to get our Rough Riders back on campus. Athletically, we'll be having golf, softball, and cross country. I think those teams are growing by the day, since those are the only 3 sports that we're going to be having according to CHASA for the fall semester. But I know our coaches and athletes and families are excited about having those sports going on in the fall semester. But lots of changes, lots of new things. We are excited to get faculty and staff and get them on board and get their feedback on what are the protocols and procedures to make some of this happen at Roosevelt High School. And so I know we're going to be working with them a lot the next couple of days to get ready. We do have a freshman orientation scheduled for August 21st at Roosevelt High School, and it'll be from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We got our student council planning it, our faculty and staff planning. We're going to just group them in small groups, spread them out, and just let them experience what Roosevelt High School is all about. They're going to be getting their ID photos. I know KQA and some of our new ninth graders that are coming in will get issued iPads. And so we'll just be getting them all taken care of and going over a lot of these protocols and procedures for passing periods and how to spread out. We'll have hand washing stations at various points for them to continue to wash their hands. We'll make sure they're wearing masks during their passing periods and transitions as they're exiting and entering the school. And so we're looking forward to working with our ninth graders and welcome them to the Rough Rider family. It's a great day to be a Rough Rider, and we're excited about having our students back on campus again. Thank you, Ms. Arnold and school board, for allowing us that opportunity. I know our faculty and staff, just meeting with a lot of them today for our first professional development day. They were excited to be back and ready for school. So let me look at some of the questions for the high school. Go through here and see if I can see a few. I know we're going to continue to make sure that we're offering all electives. We're going to be offering all of our art classes, our music classes, going to the block schedule, and then cutting the enrollment down 50% each day has helped us. And so we're going to be able to have all those elective classes continue on at Roosevelt High School. I know that somebody asked me about online programs. We're the only campus in the district that actually had a full-time online program in the past. And so Ms. Heather Farquhar does an Edgenuity program that's a full-time online program. So we were at advantage that we did have that program in place. But we're going to add to that. And some of our teachers will be teaching at the same time. They'll be blended learning. So they'll be teaching online learners at the same time they'll be teaching in-person learners. I know we're getting iPads and stands for each classroom, so that way we can record and Zoom each class lesson and instruction. So that way students that are online can attend in person the Zoom meeting, or they can watch it at another time. It'll be recorded for them. So that way there's some flexibility. And that's some of the feedback we got from our parents and students is, hey, what if I'm working? Or, what if I have a conflict with this? How can I, attend class and still get credit for it? Well, we're going to be recording those instructional lessons live and for a later viewing if they need to view them later on. So that flexibility was something very important. We're also going to experiment with a little bit of swivel on our stands for our iPads. And so that's a new device that they can put on, and the iPad actually swivels and follows the teacher around. And so, we're going to get to try some new things, but this is the year of new. And so it's new ground and new territory for everybody, for all of us. But I know working together, I can't say enough about our teachers, our admin team, the other administrators in the district, just coming together and really coming up with a plan to take care of our kids and our families and our faculty and staff. So I don't know, is there any other questions I can answer? Why doesn't the high school use the same schedule as the middle school? Will use the Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday schedule. Just looking at the different grade levels and the conflicts and everything, we're open. The one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to upset the master schedule and make sure the students don't get the classes they need. We got to make sure they get the classes and stuff they need, especially the core classes they need for graduation. Elective classes, I think we can be a little more selective, but we want to honor the students' choices. If they're pursuing a certain CTE pathway, we want to make sure they can still get those courses in their schedule and not disrupt their schedules. And I think by going by the block schedule, we're able to implement a lot of just safety procedures and precautions that helps us that the middle school wasn't able to do. Any other questions? Is bus service available for freshman orientation? I don't know. That's something we can check into. I know that our transportation department has been great to work with, and they're always eager to help wherever they can. And so if y'all would email us and let us know if you need some help with transportation for freshman orientation, maybe we could get our transportation department to help us out there. But that's a great question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Littlefield. We'll wait and see what other questions come up towards the end. But I'd like to now turn this over to our Director of Special Education, Janelle Perez, to talk about the next couple of slides on special education.
Good evening. Thank you. So yeah, special education, I've answered some of the questions in the chat and I appreciate you all asking. And so what we are going to do is we are going to still provide special education student services to students that have IEPs. I meet with my special education staff on Wednesday. And so we're going to talk about the specifics. If your student is choosing to do online learning only, we will provide services online. And so we're going to look at those IEPs and see if there needs to be some adjustments to those schedules. But we are looking to provide services both in person and online, but adhering to that cohort contact of not having a lot of adults come into students cohorts. So we're going to have to be creative about what that might look like, but we will still continue to provide services. The other thing that I want to mention is most of our students are in general education classes more than 80% of the time. And so when we're looking at special education services, we're going to support students mainly in general education. If they need pull out or they need something a little extra, we're obviously prepared to provide that, but know that we're going to support in general education classrooms as well so that students get their needs met. Related services staffs, they need to develop schedules to support students. And so when I talk of related services, I'm talking OT, PT, speech, those types of things. But your students are still going to receive those services. It may be in a different format, but we're still going to adhere to the IEPs and the identified needs of students. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to either contact myself. I've also included my assistant's email on here. But I'm going to ask you to start with your case managers. They're back on staff. They have access to email. And if you don't know who your child's case manager is, please reach out to Sil White and she can get you that information and that contact information as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Appreciate it. So we've got just a few more slides to just talk a little bit about a couple other things, and then we'll get back to some more questions. But what does lunch look like? Well, any student that's in the building at any time, whether they are there for in-person instruction or they are there for online, we will be serving them lunch. And that's if they are free or reduced, they'll get it at a free or reduced price, or they would be purchasing it just like if we were doing this in a non-COVID year. So as we start thinking about lunches, they can also bring their lunch, but I think Dr. Littlefield talked a little bit about how lunches are going to be packed and so forth, that they're going to be a lot of low touch or no touch type of going through the lunch lines, and that all of our students are going to need their IDs in order to scan in and out for their lunches if they are purchasing lunch or if they're going through the line for free and reduced lunch. So we need to make sure that all the IDs, especially on the bus as well, because as we're talking about transportation, we as I mentioned on Wednesday night with transportation, that the directives we're getting right now is for an 84 passenger bus. It's about anywhere from 14 to 20 people, 14 to 20 kids, which includes the driver, that we can actually transport right now. Now, we're also hearing if there's shorter distances, if the windows are down, et cetera, that we can do a few more students on the buses for that if they're not long distances. And I think as we are doing the midday runs, as far as it goes from, if we're going from Pioneer Ridge to the YMCA or Letford to the YMCA or to TRPR, we can make some shorter runs there during midday. The transportation department's going to start looking at, or they have already started looking at today, the bus routes as people are needing them. When we put out the survey, yes, we only had 1,600 parents fill out the survey at the time, but over 80% of those 1,600 parents said they can transport their child to school and pick them up after school. We would appreciate it if at least until October 16th, you're able to do that so we can kind of get some routines and hopefully not have any COVID cases in our schools or on our buses where we'd have to quarantine. The other way you can help is if you would like to be a bus driver for us. We are still hiring, so we would appreciate if any of our families would love to participate in that. We would just call the transportation department and they can tell you how to get signed up for that. This form is linked to this presentation as it was on Wednesday night, but you'll also get it tomorrow, that to only fill out the form if you absolutely need bus transportation for your child because of work, etc. But that also gives me, there will be some slots for before school care and after school care, a very few slots. I think maybe only 10 to 15 per elementary school. So if you need to drop off your child like at 7 a.m. and school doesn't start till 8 a.m., we can work with you on that as well and figure out what we can do here. So what is technology? Most of our principals have already talked about. If your child doesn't have an iPad, you can reach out to them right now, the principals right now, and they can coordinate some times that they can get this iPad checked out. If you want to wait till school starts, you can do that as well. If you've signed up for online learning and you have don't have an iPad, a school district issued iPad and keyboard, you do need to contact us immediately so we can get you set up with that. So some of the FAQs, these have kind of been answered, but these were some of them that came on before the board meeting. And if there's no internet at home, etc., yes, we're going to send out the form with your options so that if you are working or you're an essential worker or a single parent, etc., that you can't afford to stay home, we want to help you and we want to figure it out with you. So just let us know starting tomorrow when the form comes out that of the needs that you have there for that. How long is this going to last? Well, we hope for not very long, but we do know that it needs to go at least through October 16th. That is the first grading period. And so we figured that would give us enough time to kind of open up and to kind of see what's happening, if we're going to have to do any quarantining at all, to see how the social distancing is working, how the hand washing protocols, the mask wearing, etc. And if and when we are getting into a good place in Weld County and within our school district, I'm hoping that that week of October 16th, that we could choose to move phases. If you would like, as a parent though, to continue to do online learning at that time, you're more than welcome to do online learning at least through December. And through December, we would be then reevaluating it once again. If you are thinking at that time, come October, that you would like your child to go online or your child to come from online to in-person, you would really need to talk to your child's principal to make sure, as I think Aspen had said, the staffing, we're really trying to coordinate the staffing right now. So you would need to talk to your child's principal to make sure that the staff numbers and the cohorts don't get extremely high. How does this impact? Well, tomorrow we have the deadline for if you would like to do online, but I just want you to know that as I'm looking at the text messages and emails that I'm getting tonight of parents that are hearing this presentation tonight, that a lot of our online parents are now going, after they're hearing a little bit more about the hybrid learning and the online component and the in-person learning, that they're now wanting to switch from online to in-person. So we've got a lot of movement that we've got to do with our students, but please just be patient with us. If we send you an email saying you've signed up for online, but you really changed your mind, we can change these things and we can make it as fluid as possible. And then, yes, we know that children need interaction and time to see their friends, which is why we felt that this was the best idea that we could come up with for the time that we are in currently. As Dr. Littlefield had stated, he has a very persuasive student senior class president. And so her and the staff at Roosevelt really did think about, I mean, we want this senior year to be special for the seniors, but we also want this year to be special and to reconnect with their friends and their teachers who many of them haven't seen since March. So what we're asking is really that you kind of help us with the checks at home to make sure that taking your child's temperature, making sure that they're okay, that they're feeling okay before they come to school. And then we can continue this and hopefully expand our phase of instruction as we're moving on. Then I do have some questions, and we can kind of answer these as we go through the Q&A that's being submitted as well. But I think what you're hearing, and I'm going to go through a couple of these pretty quickly, and then we'll get to some of the questions that are being asked online. So how will parent-teacher conferences be conducted? I am going to put it out there that I'm pretty confident it's going to be conducted virtually. So in kind of a Zoom setting, that the teachers will connect with parents and give them a time on when they can connect and to talk about their child's progress. What if my child starts falling behind in their learning? Yep, that's something that we're really worried about as well, especially with knowing that sometimes in the spring with online learning, we know that some children did not thrive as well as others did in an online environment. So what you need to do is make sure you talk to your child's teacher, you talk to your child's principal immediately. If you start seeing grades are slipping, etc., you can on the parent portal start checking grades, start checking their, once we get going into school, and to really kind of keep up with their assignments, etc. Can my child join or leave the in-person school during the semester if needed? That's going to be on a case by case, and that's going to be worked out with your child's principal. Again, they need to see what kind of numbers that we have in both situations. Will there still be other after-school activities such as robotics? Can clubs still meet online? Dr. Littlefield, do you want to answer that one?
Absolutely. I met with Sodexo today just to discuss that very thing. And we are going to actually try to make sure that there's time after school for clubs, activities, sponsorships, and different groups to meet. And so we're going to encourage that, and we're letting them know that, you know, I think we gave them a deadline of 5 p.m. So they have till 5 p.m. from after school to 5 p.m. to kind of have their group meetings, their club meetings, whatever their organization they're a part of. That'll be an opportunity for them to meet at the high school in the afternoons. And so, and then they will come in, Sodexo will come in afterwards and clean the building thoroughly. So,
thank you, Dr. Littlefield. And with that, if your child is in an online situation, they can still participate as well. They can still come in person if they would like, or we can offer it, we can get it set up with a Zoom meeting like this, so they can still participate in these robotics clubs, etc. Mrs. Kramer, can they request the AM group or the PM group?
Yes, they can, and they just need to contact the principal at the elementary school to request. And as I said earlier, we will do our very best to accommodate those requests.
Thank you. If we have transportation from another parent, can we request that those students be in the same group, either AM or PM? So I'm thinking this is about a cohort situation. Yes, I would tag that on to what Mrs. Kramer just said, that if you're going to do some carpooling and you're going to create your own cohort, please talk to Mrs. Kramer or Mr. Ross or Mrs. Seafried to really figure that out so we can get those kids in the right AM or PM this week. Will there be any time of leniency for kindergartners and mask wearing? Mr. Ross, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. You know, we'll take those considerations every day on a daily basis. Teachers will have understanding with those kiddos. We know that's a challenge for that age group for sure, as Mrs. Gauna said. So we will definitely look at that and figure out the best way and how to work with each kiddo as best we can.
If I may also mention that because we're doing the half days now, it's only going to be 3 hours as opposed to a full day. So that those half day sessions are going to also help with that mask wearing. It lessens that.
That's a great point. Thank you. Thank you both. When will we know about classes for spring online? We will be making decisions after Thanksgiving about if we need to continue offering a full online experience for all students as we move into the spring semester. But as Dr. Littlefield had stated, that we do have a Roosevelt High School online that operates regardless of COVID. So if a high school student is interested in that for the rest of the year, they're able to do that as well. If something changes and all kids have to do online school, will we, the students who signed up for online classes, stay the same? We don't know what that really is going to look like yet, but yes, you would still be online, but how we would set the teachers and put the teachers with the students, that might change a little bit too, because if you're going to sign up for online right now, what could happen is you won't have a teacher necessarily that is in your school building. Especially for elementary school, because we have pulled elementary school teachers equally from each of the schools so that we are able to have those teachers really support the online students. If we all go online, we're going to have to look at how we distribute and who's kind of still attached to whom, but we will try to make it work as best as possible. Will students be assigned to their days and times? Will parents be given a choice? Just like for middle school, or like elementary school, middle school, Ms. Sanders had said that you just need to contact her. They're trying to do it by electives. And it sounded to me like Dr. Littlefield had already explained kind of somewhat of the alpha as well as the senior class that would be staying together. I believe it was said at the BOE meeting that if there are 5 cases of COVID among students and our staff within the whole district, we will have to go back to fully online classes. Is this 5 cases in a rolling 2 weeks or 5 cases this fall? Or what exactly does that mean? And will people from the same household count as 1 case or multiple cases? So the household's going to count as 1 case, but it could count as multiple if you have children that are in an elementary school and a high school. The other piece on the rolling 2 weeks, I'm not quite certain on that, and I can find that out talking to the health department hopefully tomorrow or the next day. But we will follow those guidelines. And I know, Shannon, you've looked at those guidelines as well. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm sorry. We're going to have to ask them.
That's fine. Yeah, that's a great question. We'll get that information and get it out to you. Will the online half days for elementary kids be live or a complete at your own pace with scheduled flexibility? Mrs. Kramer, Mr. Ross, somebody want to answer that one?
I can start off with what we're doing. Tomorrow when teachers are back, we're going to be talking about scheduling students and what the science and social studies online component will be. So there could be a mix of videos, teachers recording themselves teaching, or it could be also some online components as well. But I do see that as something that is going to be really flexible for parents and them being able to complete that when they're able to.
Thank you, Mrs. Seyfried. Mr. Ross, Mrs. Kramer, you good with that, or do you want to answer?
I would just add, just to clarify a little bit, the online or the in-person piece, we're really focusing on literacy and math. And so the online component is focused on science and social studies. We have some great resources for both science and social studies. So we'll be working with our teachers to really make a plan for what that's going to look like. But we're really excited to be able to focus the 3-hour time period in both the morning and the afternoon on literacy, reading, writing, and math. And then they also are getting specials during that time. So a 30-minute time for specials, and then time to focus on those really important content areas. So we're working out the piece with science and social studies for online.
I just want to add a quick, I've seen a few questions about that being a separate component. That's part of our online or in-person instruction, is that online component that'll be social studies and science focused. That's not a separate thing that you have to register for. So I've seen that come up a few times. So just want to make sure that that's clear that those are connected.
Thank you. And for the elementary principals, I do have another question. What does the online daily schedule look like for kids in the elementary school? So if they chose to go all online, I don't think we have all the details worked out, but how do you envision it right now? Can you give a little bit more information in that regard?
Yeah, there's our online handbook has a little bit of kind of a draft schedule that could work out, and it's very flexible right now. The online teachers will be meeting soon to really make a plan. We certainly don't expect our little learners to be on their devices all day, so we want to make sure that it's a mix of being on their iPads, but then also journaling or reading or getting outside, doing some of those challenges that our specials teachers have developed, those kinds of things. So it'll be a mix of things, and we certainly don't want our kids, as most parents don't want their kids to be on a device all day. So we're really trying to concentrate on keeping it balanced.
Okay, thank you. Few more questions here. How many students can ride on the school bus? I've kind of already mentioned that. Right now we're with an 84-person bus, about 14 to 20, depends if there's siblings. How will seating be arranged? What I have heard is that it's every other. So someone by the window, someone in the aisle, someone by the window, someone by the aisle. But we will have more information as we get further details from the state on that. Will my family have a say in whether a child is assigned a morning? Yep. Yes, I think we covered that one. They want to know about the teacher that the child was assigned to. And because some parents, I believe, probably selected their teacher prior to us going out into a phase 3. And I just want to say we are going to have to be flexible with this because some of our staff required submitted requirements to be an online teacher as well. So elementary, is there anything you'd like to share with this?
Yes, I think we are being as flexible as possible and trying to make it the best learning situation for all of our kids. So we definitely will work with families if you are feeling like you need a change or something like that based on changes in teachers. We can certainly work with each family.
And I would add to that that the sooner that we know that information from families, so if those parents could reach out to any one of us for our schools, that would be really helpful, because I know that we're working to finish up our class list and get that information out to parents, sent out to parents this week. So if you're able to give us any information that you think we may not be aware of, as I'm the new principal at MES, if there's something that you think, oh, maybe she's not aware of that particular request, I would encourage you just to email me to let me know those things.
Same here, please reach out. I would love to hear more from parents. I don't know if I want to say that, but I do. I would love to hear more, so just go ahead and reach out.
Yes, so as a lot of the community over the summer, et cetera, has been reaching out a lot to me, I'm now starting to push those emails to the different principals, but it would be great. Now everyone's back to work, back to contract time. So if you could just reach out to your child's principal, that would be great, and kind of to talk about their situation. I think we've answered, if you're not teachers, first responders, or essential workers, if you're both working full-time, we want to accommodate and help you. We don't need or want anyone to quit a job or whatever to stay at home. Let us try to help you and figure that out. And how limited will busing be for kids? It's going to be tight. But I think if we can get some flexibility from the state, as far as if we do shorter distances, maybe we don't do as longer runs, maybe we do, if we have to do some rural runs and bring them in, we just do that. There's not a lot of stops along the way so that we can get a few more people on the bus. But our transportation department is really working on that, and they can't do a lot of this until we close the online registration, because that is information that is still showing up, that students that are wanting the online option, it is still showing in the transportation that they may need transportation. So all of it is really going to be dependent on tomorrow at 4 p.m. when we shut online off, and then they can start running and figuring out their routes, etc. And then just a few more, and then we will stop screen sharing and we'll go to the Q&A that the viewers are submitting. How will iPad distribution work? It's the same as it always has. You can wait till school starts. You can connect with your school principal. You can connect with a teacher, what have you, and we will get you an iPad. Will they keep the same one? Yes. And if you have any problems with that iPad right now, this is the time to get them fixed, the screen, if it's broken or whatever. You really need to let us know and to get them fixed. And we would submit a help ticket for you, and we will make sure that we get them repaired before school starts. Will there be additional online options and online resources available? Similar to the free access granted in the spring? Yes, we will be pushing those out as well. Dr. Barry, our Chief Academic Officer, has really been working with her team on pulling those things together. And she'll be working with all of the, not just the online teachers, but the teachers that are going to be teaching in person to look at all the learning resources that are available as well. So outdoor activities, yep, we have to adjust as the weather changes. We're lucky in Colorado that we should have a couple good months of good weather. Let's hope. Recess, I think you've already heard that we are going to be doing some recess and some outside breaks at all levels, etc. But if the weather changes or if it's raining, then yeah, we have a different situation there. And usually in Colorado, there's snow on Halloween. So if we get snow on Halloween or in the end of October, then certainly it changes going outside. Are lessons recorded? Yes. So lessons are recorded and able to be watched later that night. So anything that what our teachers are presenting, especially in middle school and high school, those will be recorded. And can we switch, vice versa? Yes, but with caution. You still need to talk to the principal about this to make sure that the numbers are still adequate for all of our teachers, whether they're in person or that they are online. We can't have it go too low in one and too high in the other. So if you do make a decision, if you could at least stay till October 16th and let us kind of see where we're at. And if we change a phase then and people want to switch around, we'd be happy to do that. So I'm going to stop sharing right now. And is there somebody that would like to add some and answer some of the questions that are coming in?
Sure, I would, Ms. Arnold. Had a couple of parents, just concerned about seniors and their classes and preparing them from college. And making sure they're getting adequate instruction to make sure they're college ready. And also questions about dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment classes. We're going to be working with our seniors. They're a priority for us. And so we want to make sure they get all the courses they need to help prepare them for college in the best way they can. I know I've got two sons in college right now, and it's blended learning. They are doing in-person. They are doing live Zoom meetings. They're doing recorded class lessons. They're doing it all. And so I think this is going to help prepare them for college. And what that actual experience actually looks like with students that are currently in college. And so our seniors are going to be a priority for us. Make sure they get everything they need in their concurrent enrollment classes or dual enrollment classes and anything they need for college. And I know our teachers are willing to work with them any way we can.
So Dr. Littlefield, can you explain the block schedule just a little bit more? And
Sure.
then if you and Ms. Sanders can talk about the communication, because we know in the spring when we had to go all online, it was very challenging for teachers. But how will you make sure that kids don't fall behind?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what's nice about the block schedule is the teachers are actually meeting with them for a 90-minute in-person session. So that's a lot of quality instructional time and in-person time that the teachers actually get to meet with them. And so I think that's going to help them. I know, and then when students are in person, and they also have students that are, you know, live Zoom streaming, they're going to be interacting with those students, and they'll be checking on them. So I know for students that, you know, want to preview that class later on, there'll be exit tickets, you know, and that'll kind of be their attendance ticket, you know, that they completed that lesson and interacted, and then they can interact with their teacher on Fridays if they need to online for 45 minutes with all their classes. And so the block schedule, just it's 4 block schedules. They'll meet 4 periods for 90 minutes one day, and then they'll meet 4 periods for 90 minutes each period that next day, instead of doing traditionally how we did with 7 50-minute class periods in one day each day. And so, and then Friday they'll come back and they'll meet every class. So that way, if they missed something or they had questions about something, that'll be a perfect opportunity for those teachers to communicate with those parents and those students about, okay, how did it go? What do we need to work on? And that way they get one more opportunity to meet with all those students online. Ms. Sanders?
So I would echo what Dr. Littlefield was saying. Part of our work the next 2 weeks is really talking to the teachers and creating this set expectation on, here's what communication is going to look like to parents, here's what asynchronous learning looks like, here's what synchronous learning looks like, and really communicating that to parents. And I think one of the differences in the spring is we were all adjusting, and now we're creating a good plan, and our teachers, whether with our current phase 3, our teachers are here all day. If there's an issue, certainly contact the school. We have the expectation in both of our buildings that our teachers are getting back to you within a timely fashion. And if they're not, certainly reach out to one of us and we'll help facilitate that, because that is our expectation. And that we really, what somebody posted in the chat, like it takes a village. And that is such a true statement right now, is that it takes a village, that we want to do everything, this team here wants to do everything we can to support you. But sometimes if we don't know something's happening, loop us in and we will certainly get it fixed.
So since I haven't, we've got quite a few questions in the from our panelists. If you do answer live, does anyone know what happens on that? Does it mean that we've answered it? Okay, so there's one that I wanted to just, and then I'm going to ask you guys to pull some of these questions out that you can answer as well. Since disinfectant wipes are impossible to find, does the school have access to those without them being brought in per the supply list? Yes, we have access. We have plenty. The extras would be just for the student's own personal use, etc. So we have worked all summer to procure all the PPE, all of the cleaning supplies, what have you. So we should be okay with that. Anything that you can find or support, that would be great. But we know that Clorox wipes are at a premium right now. So I'm gonna click answer live and just see what happens. And then I click done. So if you can do that as we're doing these, we can make sure that we're answering our questions as well. And I'm going to answer one more because it was about internet connectivity. So I'm going to go ahead and answer live. There's a person that said the internet is cut out 10 times already with 3 kids in the house just watching this. CenturyLink is not good, but it's the only option. How will you ensure they won't fall behind to do no option for full-time school? Well, we do have option for full-time school. We don't use CenturyLink, we use TDS, and we've got a bigger pipeline, I think, than most homes would have. So if internet is an issue and you would like your children to be fully with us, then absolutely, this could be part of the problem, and we want to make sure that we can keep them going. But if they are fully online and you need connection, if you're having connectivity problems, there are other options that we can do and we can look at, for instance, the admin building, et cetera, that we might possibly be able to use with that. So hopefully we won't have that problem, but I know in Johnstown it's challenging. So anyone else would like to take a shot at a couple more questions and then click them off, please?
I'll grab this question about going into further detail what full-time elementary looks like. So the in-person, again, is part in-person instruction, part online component. And that's looking as a focus, I think we've stated already, of math and literacy, which is reading and writing included. And that's 3 hours, and that's gonna fly. So when we talk about, additional recess breaks is also part of this question. We'll have mass breaks built in, and there are some days, as you know, with your kiddos at home, that it's maybe time to get outside for a few minutes. But other than that, it's gonna fly. These kids are gonna be active, they're gonna be focused, and they're gonna be going. And what I love about what we're gonna be thinking about here at LES is we're just gonna focus on relationships the first 15 minutes of the day, and that's gonna be a really great component for this time. And it's great commitment to our staff to be able to do that as well. So, and then the online support that they will have, sorry, this is a couple parts to this question, will be from their classroom teachers or their classroom grade level. So it will really be tailored to what they're already doing in the classroom with their teachers in their current class.
I can take the question about utilizing, oops, it just moved away from me, utilizing the elementary for the daycare either in the morning or the afternoon. So again, we're really encouraging parents, if you have a special situation, that you go ahead and reach out to any of the principals, whether it's elementary. I'm not sure how middle school is doing the online piece or the all-day piece for students, but we want to work with parents. We want to make sure that we're supportive of your needs. So please reach out to us, let us know the situation and what we can do to help you with that.
I would echo what Kim said at the middle school. Please, please reach out to us. We're willing to work with families. We've got lists started to help support our families. Just reach out. We're here to help.
Okay, we have a lot of questions here. Anyone want to take some on?
I'll grab this one quickly. I've seen a few of these, but answer about school supplies. Please get to our district website. You'll see those supply lists on each school's website, so feel free to check there. If not, please contact your school.
And just to piggyback on that, there was a question about whether supplies will be shared. At the elementary level, they will not be shared. The kids will have their own supplies. And in fact, we're discussing that somehow having the kids take their supplies with them home each day along with their iPad if possible, so that if we do have the overnight change in what we're doing like we did in the spring, that you would have what you needed at home for your kids to be able to continue their learning.
And so I'll piggyback with this particular question because it goes to the school supplies piece. I think, again, we'll be communicating to all of our families about those pieces around school supplies. So as we talk with teachers, my thinking is that they would bring their school supplies possibly in a Ziploc bag with their name labeled on the Ziploc bag. This is what we're going to talk about tomorrow with teachers, about some of those things that we can do to make sure that kids have those available but easily can go back and forth in a backpack in the evening. So that's just one of the ideas that we have, and I think that we'll certainly be sharing that in more detail with families over the next couple of weeks before school starts. So I know at our school we have some supply kits that parents ordered, so our secretaries will be reaching out to those families to let them know that those have arrived, and we can certainly deliver those to the classrooms, or if parents feel like they need to come and pick those up, we can arrange a time so that you can label those, whatever is going to work best for parents.
There is one I would like to answer really quick because I think it's important. It's something we talked about as a full staff this morning, that we can't assume that everything is COVID, that if a child or a staff member has a runny nose, they cough, what have you, we can't just assume that everything's COVID. there are certain things that we will be looking for. A temperature of 100.4 or higher, and then asking the child if there's sense of smell and taste are okay, if they can still smell and taste. Those are two strong things that are connected to COVID. But I know for myself, I had a sore throat last week. But it was allergies. I go out into the sun, I sneeze a lot. And I know people look at me when I sneeze, but you know, we have to kind of get out of the mindset that everything is COVID and just look at the symptoms that are directly related to COVID and really talk about this fever. But if the children are sick and they're at home and they're not feeling up to coming to school, they have body aches and different things, it could be the flu. And we also ask you to keep them home for the flu as well. Who's next on answering questions?
I can answer the next question. A parent was asking if teachers have looked at pre-learning as a strategy to help expedite student learning so that when they do spend some time online, they're able to get to be productive, more productive. So our teachers are going to be learning some strategies to include blended learning, and this is one form of it, so that students have access to the learning. They might be watching a video, doing a small activity before they actually meet with the teacher to kind of go over the learning. So yes, this is one of the ways that they will be using for online learning.
There's a question or / comment about communication with the school, with teachers, between both parties, I guess you would say. And I'm thinking that the other principals feel the same way, that communication is going to be so very important. And if you feel that someone hasn't responded to you, or you need a quick answer, and you've reached out to the teacher, or you reached out to the person on the school staff that would be appropriate to answer that, you can always CC one of the administration to help with that as well. And because we want to make sure that all of you are getting the information that you need. My hope in terms of that with the staff, and I'll share this with them tomorrow when we're meeting together, is that my hope is within 24 hours, we are trying to answer emails. 48 hours is probably the max, unless it's over the weekend, because that is family time for teachers. So I would say, if you feel like you need more communication, please reach out again to the teacher and to the principal, just to let them know what your needs are, because sometimes things do get buried in an email and we don't want it to, and we do want to be responsive. So please let us know if you need more of something or you haven't gotten what you needed.
So I'll take a couple of the questions on. So if the rest of the team can find a few. When will we know if our kids are able to have bus transportation? As soon as we close the online piece and that's tomorrow at 4 p.m., that we'd be able to run the bus transportation routes. We'll send out the form again tomorrow to see who really needs bus transportation. And that will also help kind of determine any kind of start times and things like that. If we can't get the kids to the schools who actually need the transportation on time, then we might have to stagger some of the learning by 10, 15 minutes, etc. So we'll be really hoping that we can figure all this out within the next week or so, but we can't do anything with the buses until we figure out who's all going online, and that ends tomorrow. Is there a deadline for parents to ask for help with childcare? It's going to be as needed and as it's open. I think with childcare, if you're talking before and after school, it's really going to be, those are smaller groups. But what we're recommending is seeing if you can find cohorts of parents that can bring together kind of some maybe after school or half-day childcare, or the time that the student isn't in the school, that they work together in that cohort. And there's one question: if you can accompany an additional 100 students in the AM and another 100 in the PM with in-person instruction, why can we not have these same students be in class? That's not what we're saying at all. What we're saying is that we can accommodate another 100, up to 100 in the AM and 100 in the PM, to be socially distanced through our cafeteria, our libraries, our gym, certain hallways, etc., that they can be socially distanced. That is not in-person learning. That's for them to be on the remote piece, but in the school supervised. So I want to just make that distinction, that we're not saying we're bringing in another 100 kids in the morning for in-person learning. This is for them to do their remote learning, but at school. Anyone else want to take a few?
There's a question here about transportation. It says, so you can provide transportation to the YMCA, but can't transport them home. I'm assuming that YMCA is actually providing that transportation, not the district.
No,
the district.
No, the district will be, but remember, we have a number, only a certain number we can get on buses, and then we're short 3 bus drivers. The YMCA and Boys and Girls Club do have their own transportation. They also have the same limitations on the buses, though, that we do.
Okay. I'm trying to understand as well as all of the parents that are here.
Thank you, Tammy, for asking the question too. I appreciate it. There's one that I want to answer because I think this is one that's come up quite a bit. Why are you requiring under 11 to wear masks when it's not what is otherwise required? That was a decision from a recommendation from me to the school board. The school board made that decision July 15th, that in order to protect children and our staff at school, that masks would be required for kindergarten through 12th grade. And I think Shannon had talked to you already about what pre-K will look like. We do have face shields as well for our staff in case that they need to do some instruction with students that they need to see the mouths and whatever. But that is a decision that our school board decided to go above and beyond the guidelines that were presented to us by Colorado.
There's a question about, are the kids in all grade levels going to get the same education as they would if this never happened within this 3-day class week? So although it is 3 days, the kids continue to learn independently online the other 2 days. And I'd like to start out by saying that teachers have a set of standards per grade level per subject that they are following. We also have a scope and sequence that we're working on to make sure that we are focusing on the essential skills for each grade level. This is going to be important as we progress monitor that as well. So we do have a structure to the online courses that we're going to be developing with teachers, and not only in the pedagogy or the way we implement the instruction, but also in the way we're being mindful and cohesive about the essential learning. So we're going to try our best to make sure that our students are leaving this year being prepared for the next grade level.
One of the questions here is for the half online for elementary, will it definitely be online, not packets of papers? So one of the things that we're going to be talking with our teachers about this week is what is that going to look like, that online portion? And I know that as a project-based learning focused district in terms of STEM. We really want to make all of the learning very engaging. And so we know that paper packets aren't going to necessarily give that to students. So we're going to be creating different types of activities. It may be watching a combination of some videos for some learning and building background, and then doing some maybe something called a Kahoot or some type of activity that's really going to be something different than just sitting and filling out paper and pencil. I don't know if any of the other principals want to add a little bit to that.
I'll just add that the paper packets that we provided in the spring were provided because there were some families that were having a difficult time with access. Some families didn't want their kids on iPads as much. So we were trying to accommodate as much as possible. We did learn a lot through that process. So I think we're going to be even better than what we did in the spring. I'm very proud of what our school district and our teachers were able to do in the spring, not knowing at all how to deal with something like this. So we did learn a lot through that process, and we're continuing to learn, and we'll do our best to meet everyone's needs.
And I think that's a really good point, Tammy, about the spring and what families may need. So there might be families that need an online or a paper packet for whatever reason. And those families can reach out to us and let us know if they need something different in terms of that. So that is a really good option as well. Thanks for clarifying that.
So I'm going to take another one here. There's a couple that I'd like to answer. If a student is sick, will they be required to be tested for COVID-19 prior to returning to school? No. That's only if there is that students have been around somebody that has had COVID, that they've been contacted by the Weld Health Department because they've been to an event or something that there was a COVID outbreak. Family members might have COVID. Honestly, I was tested for COVID on Friday, and it's really not that bad anymore. They don't do what they've been doing. It's not as horrible as I think it once was. And I received through Kaiser my results within 14 hours, and mine were negative, but I was having some symptoms, and I had been around somebody that had COVID. But I think, though, if you have not experienced those things, it's probably a cold. You can contact your doctor for that information, but they would not be required to have a test coming back. And then the other one, there was one in here that, how do we access this recorded meeting? Well, we're recording it right now, and if it's not going live on Facebook, what I will do is upload it to Facebook later and onto our website, so we will have that. But there was a question at a previous meeting, it was said the R number, it's the R naught, was the big decision to go to phase 3. What is being used to switch back to phase 4? A lot of that's going to depend on the health department, but what we're looking at is positivity rates, and we need to see what that looks like from week to week with the health department. What I presented last Wednesday to the health department that was received on Tuesday of last week, I have not received any updated positivity rates for our county or the Johnstown-Milliken area. So we're meeting as Northern Colorado superintendents tomorrow, and we will be talking about that with the health department to see how frequently we can get this information. But that guidance should also be given to us from the health department and from others. And then another question, will the after-school programs be provided to KQA kids? I don't know, you're gonna have to ask KQA of what they have set up for before and after care as well, because what we're talking about are just the students that are in Letford, Milliken Elementary, Pioneer Ridge, Milliken Middle, and Roosevelt High School. And then one more, are masks required even when 6-foot distancing is achieved? What about outside? I think it was answered for outside. That's when we can take off our masks, remain 6 feet. But when we are inside, we will be requiring masks, even if we are 6 feet distanced. Anyone else? Brian, Dr. Littlefield, I see that they want you to go through the letters again of Monday, Tuesday, et cetera, if you could do that.
Yes, I just posted on a bunch of their questions and responses to them.
Thank you.
Yes, we are doing A through G. So 9th grade through 11th grade, A through G, and all seniors will be meeting in person Mondays and Tuesdays at Roosevelt High School. And then the rest of the alphabet, H through Z, 9th grade through 11th grade, will be meeting on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then all of them will be online on Friday. And we'll be sending all this information out to parents this week.
Yep, this will be coming, exactly. A lot of this will. But there's one for families that have siblings at the high school or any school. Is there any way to cohort them together? Absolutely. We need to hear from you. So we know that there's parents that have an elementary, a middle school, and a high school kid. We can't cohort them perfectly that way, but let us help you figure out the options of what we can do to get it so that it's an easier schedule for you.
Absolutely.
Yep. Are students required to wear a mask while sitting at desk? Yes. What is the discipline if they do not want to or become problematic? That's going to be dependent on the child's age. It's going to look very different for a 5-year-old than it's going to look for an 18-year-old. And I know that the staff is going to be working on the discipline for all the ages starting tomorrow when they meet with the principals. Can you send all these Q&A in a PDF to parents tomorrow? I have no idea. I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can get these downloaded somehow and get all this. There's one thank you that says, "You are all amazing." Thank you. We don't hear enough of that. I think that's very kind of you to say that. It's been asked whether or not students will be required to wear masks while at recess. That's going to be up to the elementary principals tomorrow. I think they're going to do smaller cohorts for recess, but the principals are going to talk to their staff tomorrow and figure that out. So that'll be coming soon. Will we get some sort of class list directory so we can team up with other parents in the same class? That's an excellent question. So yes, I'm hoping we can send that out and that the teacher can share a class list, etc., and that you will know who's in that child's class before you start, and then you can start looking at carpool. You can start looking, because that would then keep your cohort in the same containment, that you would have the same cohort. Would we be willing to pay more than the current rate for bus drivers? We are significantly lower than most counties. No, we're pretty much right on line with other counties. We raised that rate, I believe, last year, and we keep adding more to it. So I think we're pretty close, but right now we'd have to look at that. Anyone else want to answer? We've got like 2 minutes left.
I'll just quickly answer. Are elementary children going to have time to meet their new teachers? There are only 9 more weekdays until the 24th. Yes, we have an assessment day scheduled, and we also are going to be doing a back to school open house Zoom session. We are making plans for that in the next couple of days, so that's coming. I wrote down those dates. Let's see. The assessment day is August 19th, and the open house is August 20th, so you'll be receiving more information soon. Question about homework. Will elementary kids have homework to do at home in addition to their online session? Very likely, yes. They will have some literacy and math homework to do in addition to their social studies and science. If they're in the in-person, if it's just completely online, that will look a little different. So the online teachers will be working on that.
So we're going to go ahead and end this tonight. It's 7:58 p.m. and I know that this has gone on now for a couple hours. There are some great questions. I'm going to try to capture these before I log off as well. And I'm hoping that it'll download or something, but I'll figure that out. We will try to get these answered, but as you know, there are some questions we just don't have the answers to. We are just really asking, though, that you continue to work with us, that you will continue to have patience and extend some grace in these trying times. Our staff is doing the best that they can. Our school board is doing the best that they absolutely can. And we're trying to make decisions and make some sense out of something that just doesn't really make sense. And this is a struggle for all of us. And it's very challenging to try to figure out like when things are going to change or how they're going to change and what will make it change. But I just want you to be assured that we have people, not just the people on this panel, but people in the schools that are very, very dedicated to making this work for whatever situation that you have and for your kids. We know that spring was challenging. We weren't prepared for that. Nobody was prepared for that. We couldn't predict it, nor were we ready for it. But our staff stood up when they needed to. We know that there were some staff members that had more challenges than others with that. But we really want to just say that we are working these next 2 weeks. The calendar's not going to change again. We're working these next 2 weeks to really figure this out and to get this right for you and your children, most importantly. So don't hesitate to reach out to the principals. Know that we're getting a lot of emails. If there is something very urgent, send it to listen@weldre5j.org. If it's something that you can wait a couple days on, send it directly to the principal. But tomorrow you're going to be getting a lot more information. You're going to be getting a lot more of this FAQ, hopefully. Thank you for the people giving us positive feedback. We don't have room for the negativity. We have too much work to do. So I just want to thank everybody on the panelists tonight. Thank you to the community that showed up for this. We will get this loaded on our Facebook page and everywhere else, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned. There's more to come. If we need to have another community webinar next week, we are more than happy to do so as well. So let us get some communication out this week, and then we'll see where we're at. So thank you, panelists, for joining tonight. You're absolutely fine to click off. I'm not going to end this because I want to see if I can capture all of this other stuff before I log off. So thank you, everybody, and have a good night.